All right, we're going to look at day 112. This is on comparing numerical expressions. This is the second part of 5OA2. The first part was what we did yesterday when we translate from a mathematical problem into a numerical expression. Today we're going to be given two numeric expressions and asked to compare them. So what's different and what effect does that have once we simplify this? However, today, in the language of the standard, it says that we should be able to compare them without performing the calculation. So that means without simplifying. That said, if students simply are struggling to parse the language of the example, it is not the end of the world if the strategy that they have is to simplify, right? If you have some struggling readers and this work is really fatiguing for them, one strategy would be to actually simplify both expressions and then determine the relationship. Also, if you have students that finish early, another strategy that they have to check their work is actually to simplify both expressions. So the goal today is not to simplify, but that is a strategy. Some other things to note is this would be a really good day to make sure that you go over all the guided practice and independent practice to give students that immediate feedback on whether or not they understood the lesson before they get to the exit ticket. Another point is that this work can be really fatiguing for our students that struggle with reading, and so having them work on this for 70 minutes in a row might not be as effective. You're going to get some students that really check out because this work is so mentally taxing. So finding some fun ways to break it up, doing maybe check your work with a partner, or doing a brain break in the middle of the independent practice could be really helpful in keeping students on task. Okay, so then let's look at how we're going to start. We're going to start by just looking at these two expressions, expression A and expression B. This is a right pair share. What do you notice that's the same? And what do you notice that's different? So what's the same is 4 times 3. Great. And what's different is that this second expression has a plus 5. Great. So that's what we're going to be doing today, is looking at these two expressions and comparing them. What's the same is 4 times 3. And then B, expression B, I know is going to be 5 more than expression A because it says plus 5. For this one, it's easy to do this in our head. Expression A is 12, and expression B is 12 plus 5, or 17. And so I can easily compare, and I know that 17 is 5 more than 12. Great. So that's similar to the work that we're going to be doing today. However, today we're not going to be simplifying both expressions. We're going to determine the difference between the two and the effect without simplifying. So for our examples, I put 1 pepper, 2 peppers, and 3 peppers so that we can say, the first one is pretty mild, then it gets medium and spicy. The reason I want to do that is because I don't want kids to check out after example 1. I don't want them to think oh, this is easy. I don't need to pay attention for examples 2 and 3, because example 2 and 3 is really the level of the rigor that we've seen on PARCC and on ANET. So let's look at example 1. Without evaluating, how does the expression 3 times 2 plus 6 compare to the expression 2 plus 6? For me, what makes sense is to underline the part of the expression that's the same. So 2 plus 6 is the same for both expressions. And then I want to circle the extra operation in one of the expressions. So I see that the first expression has a times 3, which means it's 3 times as large as the second expression. And that's answer choice C. I'm also looking at answer A, which was trying to distract me because it says 3 more than. But I know from yesterday that 3 more than means addition, right? So it's not, I don't see addition here, I see multiplication. It's 3 times as large as 2 plus 6. Great. What we really have to be careful of moving forward is that there's some order of operations tricksters. In this case, 2 plus 6 was in our parentheses, so we would always do that first. We want to be weary moving forward and looking at these expressions when the order of operations comes into play. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at example 2. Before we get to example 2, it might be helpful to have students go over the inverse operations. They should know this because of fact families. What is the opposite of addition? The opposite of addition is subtraction. What is the opposite of multiplication? Well, the opposite of multiplication is division, right? And vice versa. The opposite of subtraction is addition, and the opposite of division is multiplication. They should know that from fact families from 4th grade. So let's look at example 2. This is a medium spicy level problem. Choose the phrase that correctly completes the sentence. The value of this expression is blank the value of this expression. Okay, so underline the part that's the same. So what's the same is 5,624 minus 2,624. The part that's different is that the second expression has divided by 5. Gosh, so that means that this expression is actually smaller. The second one is smaller than the larger one. To answer this question, we have to understand that multiplication is the opposite of division. So this dividing by 5 makes this 5 times smaller than this one. That means that this one is 5 times as large as this one. Okay, so we would circle answer choice B because this is the larger expression. Well, how much larger? It's 5 times larger. And how do I know that? Well, because this one is being divided by 5. And I know that multiplication and division are opposites. Then it's also important that we look at the other answer choices and discuss why were they distractors. If you picked answer A, what mistake did you make? If you picked answer A, you didn't realize that this was a whole expression back here. You were just looking at, 5,624 minus 2,624. If you picked answer C, then you were comparing this one and saying this one compares to this one, how, rather than this one compares to this one, how, right? This is the smaller expression. We want to make sure that we're looking at this one and saying, how does this one compare to this one? And then where would we get 3,000 times larger? And then students would identify that this 5,624 is 3,000 more than 2,624. So that's a medium spicy level problem. Now let's look at number 3, which is super, super hot spicy. Which statements are correct? Select all that apply. This is the item that Ana is most likely to give. They've been giving this most frequently, right? On all A4s from the last several years. This is actually 4 problems in one. And so we need to attack each of these as a true or false statement, right? And so each one of them, we're going to have to follow the same steps of underlining and circling what's different. So let's look at A. The value of 22 plus 6 divided by 2 is 2 times as large as the value of 22 plus 6. Well, that's not true because this says divided by and this says times. So I know that's not true. Let's look at answer B. The value of 22 plus 6 is 2 times as large as the value of 22 plus 6 in parentheses divided by 2. That one is true. It's the exact same question, more or less, that was directly above, right? We know that this is going to be twice as big as this because divided by 2 is the opposite of times 2. Okay, let's look at answer choice C. The value of 22 plus 6 divided by 2 is 22 greater than the value of 6 divided by 2. That is also true because of the order of operations, right? 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I know that this is 3 and this is 3 and this is 22 plus 3. And so, yes, this one is true, right? And so, I did some simplifying in my head there. That's one of the strategies that kids would have, right? If all else fails, they can simplify, and these ones are pretty easy to simplify in their heads. Now let's look at answer D. Answer D is really tricky. The value of 6 divided by 2 is 22 greater than the value of, in parentheses, 22 plus 6 divided by 2. Right? And we would have to say no here because of the order of operations, right? And the second expression, we would be adding 22 plus 6 first and then dividing by 2. And that means that it's not going to be 22 greater than 6 divided by 2. And again, if we need to, we can always simplify, right? That's the backup. That's the plan B. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 22 plus 6 is 28. Divide by 2 is 14. And I know that 3 is not 22 greater than 14. Okay?